Happy New Year. Apologies for the delay for the answers video, for the questions I asked you on Christmas Eve. I got a bit sidetracked. I've had a mental week, very, very busy. And obviously you saw, I got the footage from the ferreting, so I wanted to get that to you guys sooner. But here we are, I'm all set up. I've got the green screen. I would have done this outside, but it's freezing. So, without any further ado, I've got my laptop here. So, I'll answer a few questions. To start with, Bobby Dugart asks, what is your profession? Now that's not an easy question to answer. A couple of people have posted underneath saying, oh, used to work in IT. And yeah, I was a network manager in a high school, sort of running a large network. We had, about 700 computers and 6 servers and 1,200 users. And I've been doing that for a very long time, and in fact this will lead on to another question that someone asks me further down that we'll come on to. But I was doing that for a very long time. I wanted to change, and so I started a new job about a year ago. I'm still in IT, but I'm now working in basically logistics for the supply chain, and the IT element is that I help develop an app. It's a web app, because like Facebook says web app, you just got an SQL database as the back end, and then you just have a website effectively, and every time you send a friend request or do whatever it is on Facebook, all you're really doing is editing an SQL database underneath. And that's essentially what I'm doing, except what I'm developing is a ledger which shows orders moving backwards and forwards between warehouses in the UK and Europe for things like layer pads and pallets. Now, some of the technologies we use is RFID. Now, when you have a credit card and you swipe to pay for something, that's kind of like RFID. It's actually a bit more, that's more complex because it's actually a mini computer you've got on your credit card, but essentially the same thing happens. A Wi-Fi signal agitates the chip, and that gives the chip energy, and that allows it to send a signal back to say what it is. So I'll put up like posts at choke points going into warehouses with aerials on, and they'll scan all of the pallets inside the trailer, and it'll count them all, and then it'll upload that data to the cloud. And then with layer pads, we have sensors and things for... Layer pads are like what go in between stacks of beer cans and stuff. And we have to sort them and put them in different statuses and so on, like they're ready for use or they're awaiting inspection, that kind of thing. And yeah, I kind of have to do that. But there's a bit more to it than that, because a lot of the time I'll get people sort of saying, oh, your app's broken or something's wrong and whatever, and I have to investigate to show that there's nothing actually wrong with software, there's some sort of production problem, somebody's not doing their job properly somewhere, somebody's kind of cocked up and panicked and then tried to trip a sensor loads of times with their hand or something to make it look like they haven't, and then, yeah, and then you have to go through all of that process with operations and so on. So, yeah. I told you it wasn't easy to explain, and it sounds quite boring, but believe me, it's amazing. I'm really enjoying it. As I've said before, my first day was in Poland, and I'm going to Italy next month, and yeah, and Belgium probably again, and loads of different places. It's great. Anyway, I digress. Private William Hudson asks, how do you stop the UK becoming an even more authoritarian, anti-free speech and gun rights state? Very good question. I guess it's getting people to wake up, being aware of what's going on, about what globalism means. Because globalisation, we're all aware of. The internet, the fact that I'm talking to you right now, the fact that you can go onto social media and talk to your friends, and the fact that I work with people all over Europe, tracking things moving around and so on. Everybody's kind of a lot closer, the world's getting smaller, and in a lot of respects that's good. But that doesn't mean that we should have an overarching kind of world superstate, which is kind of what we're going to, where our every movement is being monitored and tracked, and we are, we are potentially losing all of our privacy and sovereignty as nations and as individuals. And it's a scary road to go down, because you notice how this is the way this is happening, whether you're talking about the EU or you're talking about free speech. These are kind of the same things. It's seeing us as a homogenous group, not allowing anybody to be individual, whether it's an individual nation or an individual person. We are all this sort of group, and it's very Orwellian. And I hope that people use democracy to fight against it. Well, we've already seen that with Brexit and Trump, and also lots of reactionary movements across Europe. But it may come to eventually where you really do have a Soviet Union type situation. It's not like history hasn't gone down this road before, and there has to be a revolt at some point. History does tend to repeat itself, unfortunately. So, but I don't know what the answer is to that, other than making people aware. Most people don't even think about that sort of stuff. They just keep their head down and go on with what they're doing, making money and doing that. So, yeah, I know that's not a great answer. Master Blob asks, quotes, "I've had a really good year, I've made loads of money. Also support me on Patreon, please." It's not really a question, is it? But yeah, I get what you're saying. And loads is it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, what did I say when I did the Christmas message video? And I said, compare yourself to how you were yesterday. What's a lot of money for me may not be a lot of money for you. So, it's just it's a form of, it was me talking about self-improvement. But Patreon, yeah, I mean, there's I quoted Jordan Peterson recently, and he actually talks about, he gets asked how much money he's making, and it's insane. He goes through it with no embarrassment, but he must be clearing $6 million a year now, and he's obviously got a lot of Patreon supporters. And I suppose what it comes down to is there's things that you might spend money on you would spend money on when the money's being donated to you to give something back to the people who donated it, that you also kind of like or whatever. That you wouldn't spend if it was your own money, because we've all got our own priorities about how we balance the books. But to give you an example, I recently bought this, and this is all thanks to you guys, to my patrons. Now, if you're wondering what this is, it's a fox caller. Oh, I've just turned it on the decoy. It also has a decoy, and it has a remote control. And I will do a review of this at some point. I won't do this for too long because you'll find it really annoying. But if I press number 7. Right, I'm not going to play that forever because that's really annoying, isn't it? That is at its lowest volume setting, and that is for calling in foxes, and that's the sound of a jackrabbit. I say it's for calling in foxes. It's for calling in coyotes, really, but it's kind of cross-platform. And with the remote, you can it's got various sounds set up for it. And you can program it however you like. But it also has, additionally to that, here, there's a thing that I haven't got with me that attaches to it, that gets a furry thing that sort of dangles down, and you can make it spin round as well. And what you can do, the idea is, it's not so much for at night, the decoy, but certainly in the day, you put that out 50 yards away, get yourself concealed somewhere, and then just use your remote to try and call in a fox, and the fox will come up to it, it'll see the decoy, be attracted to it, and then you can shoot it. The brilliant advantage of that, especially for me, is that you can find a safe spot to shoot, and then decide if that's the ambush point, and use the caller for that. But that was like 185 quid. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have, I would have maybe at some point, but it wouldn't be a big priority to spend my money on. But because of your donations, I can justify buying that. It's the money you've donated, and it will mean that I can do some great foxing in the future, hopefully. I'm still kind of getting my head around it. But that can then translate into videos for you guys. In fact, I'm going to hopefully go out with that soon, because Tom has borrowed a thermal imaging camera from his work, which costs about £5,000. And if he comes out with me, because the problem I had with this the other day, I did call a fox in to about 30 yards. As soon as I stuck the light on, though, because I've got that Chinese torch thing, that I reviewed before, it went into strobe, which just freaked out the fox and it ran off. But when you've got thermal imaging, you can, before you even set it up, you can look for, it goes on for like a mile or something, and it can see foxes and whatever it is you want to shoot in the undergrowth. It doesn't matter where they are, what cover they've got. So you can go, okay, yeah, there's one there and there's one over there, so I'll set up here. And then you turn it on before you even put any lights on. You can see it. Tom could be like, yeah, there's one coming in. And then just when it's in the right spot and he says it's there, I can just put the light on and shoot it. So that's going to be brilliant. So that's why you should subscribe to Patreon. Anyway, moving on. I've really got to get through these quicker, haven't I, really? Otherwise we'll be here all night. Aaron Nethersol asks, so he says, Merry Christmas, Sam. What is your view on the recent Gatwick drone incident and the idea of the police to shoot them down? I was the only one thinking, how can they even think of attempting to shoot drones out of the sky with rifles in an area like Gatwick? Referring back to your recent video on backstops, do the police not even know these rounds can travel miles? Have a good one, mate. I would imagine they would be prompting for shotguns there. They weren't planning on using rifles. That's quite disturbing. It wouldn't surprise me. I've heard horror stories of the police trying to shoot like escaped cows before with a 9mm, which is, I mean, as you would know, I mean, a 9mm is barely enough to kill a man, let alone something the size of a cow. So they don't necessarily always have a lot of common sense, the police. But I was surprised how long that took to sort out, because they must have a shotgun available somewhere. Most shotguns now are chambered for 3-inch. All they've got to do is take their shotgun, go to a local gun shop, I'm sure they've got one in Gatwick, and say, can I have some like number 2 steel goose shot, like 50 grams 3-inch, load it up, full choke. You could shoot those things out to 50 yards away, no problem at all, no danger to anyone. It shouldn't have taken them more than like an hour from start to finish to solve that problem. The fact that it took several days and had planes, grounded, it's ridiculous, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, that's just the PC country that we have. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I lived in Gatwick, I would happily volunteer to go down and shoot those drones for them for free, but I'm sure that they would instead pay somebody to do it who probably doesn't even know what they're doing, because this is the world we live in. It's like the badger colour, isn't it? Instead of sort of allowing people to pay for tickets to shoot badgers, which they would, no, we have to pay people to do that. It's this ridiculous mentality, but yeah, it's the world we live in. Shooter Down Under asks, in Australia we've got a push to gain access to public lands for hunting in Queensland and Western Australia, much like New Zealand. In New Zealand there's a phrase that a Kiwi is born with a fishing rod in one hand and a rifle in the other, which is one of the reasons why hunters in Australia are always pushing for more access to public land for hunting. Is there a similar move to do this in the UK, as it would go a long way to turning the public mood around on hunting and gun ownership in general? Kind of no, but there was a lot of controversy recently with the Welsh government banning shooting on public land for I think it was pheasant shooting or something, and it's a bit of a losing battle because very little land can be shot on in the UK anyway, and yeah, I mean, there was an uproar about that, but most people don't, the general public don't care. It's not on their radar. They're not even thinking about it. I mean, in fact, when I heard that story about the ban on shooting in Wales, I was actually surprised that they had allowed it in the first place, especially considering how lefty the Welsh government is. So yeah, but no, there isn't a great appetite. But we don't have a tradition of shooting on public land in the UK anyway. We're unlucky like that. Most countries, most of Europe, and certainly in the States, they have a lot more government-owned land that you have the right to hunt on. You have to pay for a ticket, and you'll be able to shoot so many of one species or whatever for that season. But you're entitled to that. You have an orange cap, and you go out and you do that. But we just don't have that culture here, really. So no, unfortunately not. Sam Beanie asks, how do you think leaving the EU will affect firearms laws now and in the future? I don't think they will affect them. We have a very reactionary government. I suppose what could happen is, if they completely screw up Brexit, and we suddenly get a UKIP government, which could happen, and frankly at this point in time, especially if you value free speech, you really should vote UKIP, because and it's not because I particularly love UKIP, but they're the only truly classically liberal political party in the UK today. And if that happened, then maybe the gun laws would be relaxed, but I doubt it, frankly. So yeah, there we are. It's going to be much the same, to be honest. Dexter Horsfield asks, why did you leave the Bewdley School? Well, I think I've covered that. As I said, I've been doing the job a very long time, and I wanted to do something different, especially, when you're getting towards 40, you don't want to get typecast. People in the public sector tend to they tend to get very narrow in the type of job that they do. So even if you're a techie and you work in a high school, you go and work for another high school or a university or a college, but they always stay within the same thing. And I was just bored of it, you know. I wanted to do something different, and that's what I'm doing. And also, it was loads more money, frankly. Stephen Binks asks, Merry Christmas, Sam. My questions are, do you think more air rifle ranges in cities would help the sport grow? Also, just as importantly, educate people about firearms and the fun and the real possibility about owning one, and educate young people especially about the real life consequences of ever using one unlawfully. Yeah, I would actually be more inclined to try and involve air rifle shooting a lot more in schools. And, you know, it is fairly popular to have archery in schools still. It's one of those funny ones, isn't it, archery? No, the public mindset, and certainly the government mindset, don't see the connection between archery and shooting, even though they are the same thing. In fact, archery's, you know, a bow is very, very much more powerful than an air rifle. And archery's fairly common. So I can see no reason why we shouldn't be able to shoehorn in a bit of air rifle shooting, because I think that would be very popular. But, you know, we'll see. I think that would have more of an effect. I think that would be better, but yeah, we shall see. Alan 1 asks, how would you ask permission to shoot on someone's land? I would say just get to know them, schmooze. I've said this before, but you know, the most permissions you'll get, you'll hear from one person who's got some land you already shoot on, who tells you about someone else, and so on. And if you've got no land, then you need to get to know someone who does, or you get to know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and so on. You know, for me, I've had a lot of permissions just because of my dad, you know, because he drinks at the pub, he's a sociable guy, he speaks to a lot of different landowners, so, you know, there was the one landowner over there, where I've done a lot of pigeon shooting, and, you know, my dad speaks to him in the pub, and he's like complaining that, you know, he's got too many pigeons. My dad says, oh, my son will come and shoot them. And he says, yeah, all right, no worries. And, you know, went from there. And then he got another friend way over that way who was complaining that his deer stalker wasn't turning up often enough. My dad's like, well, my son's got a big deer rifle. He'll come and shoot your deer for you. And so I've done that. So it's kind of like that, really. You know, you need to, you know, involve yourself in the community and get to know people. And the minute you kind of start speaking to people, you'll see that you'll just start networking. It's just like anything in life, you know. This is how you get a girlfriend, you know. You know, you don't get a girlfriend, do you, by sitting at home doing nothing. You go to places where there are women, you know, or you've got friends who are there who know women, and then you talk to people, and then you start interacting with people, and you're being seen to be somewhere regularly, and you break the ice, and you get to know them, and then you start, you know, start getting some action, don't you? It's the same with shooting. It's exactly the same principle. You know, you can't just sit at home and sit on your hands and say, oh, well, I want permission. Or think that, you know, that it's going to work putting your best shirt and tie on and just knocking on doors. Well, no, that won't work either. People will be a bit weirded out by that. You need to get to know people, you know. You wouldn't go around knocking on doors saying, oh, hello, I'd like to take your daughter out for a drink. I mean, that's not going to work, isn't it? That's just going to weird them out. They'll probably shoot you or something. You wouldn't do that, would you? So, yeah, that's what you do, you know. In terms of how you ask, that's just, as I said, be like, well, ask like a proper person. How would you ask anybody anything? Mention what you do and so on, and see what they say. Alex Chandler asks, if you could apply for a CCW permit, would you? If so, what would you carry? I don't think I would, to be honest. I seem to be a bit silly in the UK where I live. Although I'd very much like to be able to carry a pistol of some description whilst out shooting, because I think it would be very useful. If I was out deer stalking, a revolver of some sort would be very, very useful. And as a general thing, even if I'm out like with, you know, just the rimfire, having like a little 410 pistol would be really useful. Like say a Derringer. I saw one guy once on the Pigeon Watch forums, he'd got a Derringer 410. I don't know if you guys who don't know what a Derringer is, it's like those little guns you used to see in cowboy movies that women used to put in their stockings, you know. They're usually really little, but you can get a really big one, and it's just an over and under 410. The barrels are about that long. Now, I've seen those in America, but they've usually got a rifle barrel, but this guy got one that was smooth bore. I mean, that would be perfect. If you had slugs as well, that would be brilliant. But in terms of just carrying one around day to day, I don't want to be, sound like a FUD by any means, and certainly if I lived in London, my opinion would be very different, I'm sure. But I think it's a bit silly, really, to be honest. But if I lived in the United States, I absolutely would. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, wherever I lived in the United States, because there's so many people with guns, it's probably a good idea to be packing. I suppose, you know what I'm like, I like nice things. So I would be inclined to get something like a Kimber K6, because they're just so pretty. Because if you're going to carry something all the time, it's like, I showed you that custom knife I got recently. It's not necessarily that it's, does the job better, but if you're going to carry something all the time, or use something all the time, why not have something nice? It's like people are going on about Glocks all the time. They're horrible, ugly, plastic, rubbish things. It's just like, I don't know, going to Walmart to buy some terrible top or whatever, and just wander around like that. No, have a bit of class, look cool. Why not? You know what I mean? Why have something that's just shit? It might do the job, just like your clothes might keep you warm and keep the rain off your back. But, it'd be nice to have something nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, Robert Foot asks, hi Robert, how many successful long-range shots on game this year? 100 plus metres. If you catch up with Callum, tell him he is missed. Love the channel. Merry Christmas. I don't know. How many I plan to have? Well, the days are starting to get longer now. Well, I say that. I mean, we've just passed Christmas, but we've passed the winter solstice. So as springtime comes, there should hopefully be some rabbits about. It depends, we know how it is on different bits of land. Sometimes it's great for rabbits some years, sometimes it's not so great. So we shall see, but I will certainly be honing my long-range skills, probably with a rimfire on them. If I'm shooting deer and foxes and stuff, I'm more inclined to get a bit closer if I can. But yeah, with rimfire, that's great fun. So yeah, watch this space. Harry Ward asks, might be a bit late, not too late, but how did you get known by farmers in order to shoot for them? Also, what are the laws on shooting on your own land? I've just covered this, getting to know people. Laws in terms of shooting on your own land, well, it's no different to anywhere else. That's a permission, isn't it? So, the FEO would come and assess the land and decide what calibre was suitable for that land. He would normally base that upon what you've asked for. So if you say, yeah, I've got some land, I want a 243 for shooting deer, and he looks and he thinks, yeah, okay, that's safe, he'll clear it for 243. What you should do is go, well, yeah, you've asked for 243 and you can have that, but I would actually clear this up to 308 or whatever, because it's safe for that. But they don't generally do that. They generally will just clear land for whatever you've asked for, if they think it's okay. And then yeah, I mean, that would be your land, and after you've shot on it for a while, I had this, if you've shot on land that you've got stipulated land that you've said you can shoot on, although it's weird because, and this is a misconception people have, where you put in your permissions on your application and they might phone them up and whatever and say, has this guy really got permission to shoot on your land? And after that, you're not only cleared to shoot on the land you've specified, you're cleared to shoot on land that you know has been cleared by the FEO or the local FEO, which ultimately means the chief of the firearms unit. So you can shoot on any land that you know has been cleared. But after a couple of years, if you're in the habit of phoning them up and saying, oh, I've got this new permission, like I did with the deer stopping permission, and you say, is it clear? Because I don't know, is it clear? They will probably give you an open ticket, which is what happened to me. So, they were like, oh yeah, I know that farm, but we've only cleared it for 17 HMR. Because obviously whoever asked land to be cleared previously had only asked for 17 HMR, so that's what they cleared it for. But then they know that, that's because I've just told them there's a high seat and there's a stalker there already. They're like, well, okay, it probably is safe then. And they just can't be asked to go out to clear the land again. So they're like, just send me your licence, I'll open your ticket. And then you can just shoot anywhere you like then, it's up to you. It's your risk. So that's what tends to happen. Winsford Auctions asks, my brother wants to come with me to do pigeon shooting and clays. What Section 2 gun would you recommend he buy for up to £400 that would fit the bill? I would recommend any shotgun whatsoever that fits him, that's proofed so it doesn't fall to bits. You get a lot of this off people, and it's a funny one, isn't it? Because take your over and under, a nice over and under like my Browning, or nice side by side. It's only nice because it's nice. Does it shoot any better? Does it shoot any better than a gun you bought for like £80? You might have a gun that's just covered in rust and got the stock with chips of wood, cut out of it and whatever, but it fits you, and because it fits you, it shoots well. That's what's important. Other than that it's safe, I suppose. But all guns are safe, really. Like, usually, anyway, as long as they've been proofed. So, yeah, it's just find one, try it, and see if it fits you. That's all you've got to worry about, honestly. Tom Mosques asked, a belated Merry Christmas and Happy Health and Prosperous New Year to you, sir. Okay, yeah, great, thanks. I was trying to skip through the ones that weren't questions, I missed that one. But yeah, thank you. An 82 asks, controversial I know, but air rifle pellet is better. Oh, okay, what's better, a 177 or a 22 air rifle? He says, between you and Tom, you both have air arms S310s in both these calibers. A video would be a good idea. Yeah, we have planned on doing that, a comparison. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's an age thing, but neither rifle's particularly accurate now. So, which is why you won't see me shooting my S310 very much, because there is something not right with that rifle. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I've tried almost everything, but I can't get it to group. And because I can just borrow my brother's day state now, I just don't, I don't really sort of look at it. But in terms of 177 and 22, that's a really easy answer. It really is. If you're using sub 12 foot-pounds, get a 177. There's no difference in power, they're exactly the same. Anyone who tells you that a 22 is more powerful than a 177 doesn't know what they're talking about. Because the power is rated at the muzzle. So you've got a gun that's 11.5 foot-pounds. That doesn't matter whether it gets that from a slow heavy pellet or a fast light pellet. They're both still 11.5 foot-pounds. But if you're using a slow fast pellet, like a 177, it means that you have a much flatter trajectory, which means that you don't have to adjust as much for a longer distance, which means even though there's no reason why one should be more accurate than the other, real world for a real person, you're going to shoot that 177 more accurately. Going beyond that, up to 12 to 30 foot-pounds, say, you'll be better off with a 22. Because if you've got, say, 20 foot-pounds and you shoot a 177, it's going to go so fast it breaks the sound barrier, and when it breaks the sound barrier, it goes past and it slows down, and then the sonic boom catches up with it and makes it tumble and makes it horribly inaccurate. Anybody will tell you the optimum speed for an airgun pellet is about 900 feet per second. So whatever power you have, you want to keep it at that speed, which means as you increase the power, you want a bigger and heavier pellet, which is why you see people with .25 or even 30 caliber air guns. Because if you're cranking out 50 foot-pounds, then yeah, you probably want a .25 pellet, because then at that point, 22's too light. So that's the way it works. But sub 12 foot-pounds, T2 will do the job, but why? Why have a big loopy trajectory when you could have a really nice flat one? That's what I would say. But I'm sure people will argue about this till the cows come home. Ben Clay asks, what was the best animal and bird to shoot? How has that, and at the end, what favourite cartridge and what favourite gun to shoot? There is no... Okay. That wasn't I'm not being horrible, that's not a brilliantly worded question. In terms of best animal, it depends on where you are, work the land. It's not a question of best, is it? It's a question of what's available. If you're talking about what I like, then yeah, I could just shoot deer all the time if I could get away with it. But, life's not like that, is it? Let's have a look. Paul Wood asks, hi Sam, I'd like a 22 WMR semi-auto for vermin, but there's not much choice. It's between the CZ512 WMR and the Savage 822 WMR. Can you advise on which one? Do you know of any others? Thanks. No, I'm not particularly familiar with either gun, unfortunately. I think there was a yeah, there's a company in America that make, I'm trying to remember the name now, but yeah, there is a fairly common semi-auto you can get in America in 22 WMR, which is quite good. But yeah, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. I think there is actually an AR that you can get now in 22 WMR. But yeah, they're not common because I guess in most countries 22 WMR isn't massively popular, and so it's very expensive. So people who shoot semi-auto don't want it. But for the UK, of course, you know, it's a particularly nice caliber because you've got a decent amount of power, and you can have it in semi-auto, which obviously, other than that, all you can get is a 22LR. So, but yeah, you will struggle. You will struggle. Up the Tag asks, do you think we'll actually leave the EU? It seems our political masters are pushing out constant smoke and mirrors propaganda. Yeah, I think we will, because I think they know what will happen if we don't. Because, you know, 17 million people voted to leave the EU, and it could cause quite major civil unrest if they try and weasel their way out of it, even if that's by having a second referendum. I always find it ironic when they say a second referendum, because I would say, yeah, let's have a second referendum, and it should be between taking the deal that Theresa May has suggested, which is crap, or we leave without a deal. Because there should be no reason to vote on whether we stay in the EU or not, because we already voted on that, didn't we? And we can't have a second referendum because they haven't done what we did in the first referendum yet. If they do, I mean, yeah, it would be a really big mistake. And I don't think that they will. But yeah, we will see. We will see. Molten S asks, what time of day is best for shooting rabbits, pigeons and pheasants? That's a good question, actually. Especially when you're talking about those three creatures, because it's a very different scenario. Rabbits would be the same as with deer, or with foxes, which is just as it's getting light in the morning, or it's just as it's getting dark at night. Or with a lamp. But obviously you can't lamp deer, but you can lamp foxes and rabbits. I'm not a fan of lamping though, even though I'm going to do some. I just don't enjoy it that much, if I'm honest, compared to in the daytime. But that's just me. But yeah, if you're just walking around in the day, first light or last light. Pigeons, it depends, you have to do a recce, but pigeons are funny creatures because they basically eat like we do. They have breakfast, lunch and dinner. So if you want to get them at breakfast time, get up when it's first light, and just as it's getting light, and you'll see them flying about, and there'll be a lot of activity because they're having their breakfast. And then it will quieten down, and then from about 12 o'clock, maybe half 11, 12 o'clock, it will start getting busy till about 2 when they're having their lunch. Then it will quieten down again. I'm talking typically, because it varies, of course. And then from about 6 until it's sort of later on in the evening, it will get busy again when they're having their dinner. That's like, meaning in the summer, obviously. But of course, you've always got to do a recce, so it depends. Pheasants, if you talk about the sort of pheasant shooting I do, or I did do, because it's annoying, because the area of that particular farm where there were loads of pheasants that had escaped from neighbouring farms, they don't want me shooting there with the shotgun because of these racehorses, which are a bit mental. But if you're talking about that, where you're doing walked-up shooting from escapees, then I would recommend because you're talking about in the winter, I would be talking about from about lunchtime. The reason I say that is because most shoots have their shoots in the morning. So if you go up first thing in the morning, you're not going to see that many. But by lunchtime, they will have spread out loads, so you'll probably have more of them on your permission. So I personally would generally go and try and walk up on some pheasants in the afternoon. So yeah, I hope that helps. EJL110 asks, Merry Christmas, how things are going with a Browning 325? Well, I don't own 325, I own a 525, and it's alright, yeah, it's not too bad. I know it didn't fit you right. Have you done anything to the stock to improve the fit? Would you consider doing a video on adding to the stock and refinishing it so the stock looked original and not sticking to the aftermarket pad on the back? All the best for 2019. We all appreciate the hard work that goes into making videos. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I really need to go and see a gunsmith, don't I? And I keep saying that, but I don't know, I don't do a lot of shotgun shooting these days, and when I do, I tend to pick up my pump because it fits me and it's got high capacity. And the rest of the time I'm usually using the rifle, to be honest. It's not like back in the day when I was first making videos where I only had a shotgun and I was using it all the time. You know, now it's like, you know, I'd rather be walking around with a deer rifle, to be honest, but if not, the rimfire. And then, yeah, if I'm pigeon shooting, I'll always pick up the pump. Always, really, over the stubbles. So the only time I use the over and under is for pheasants. And now I'm not even doing that very often, so it's not been a priority. But yeah, I should do that at some point. Darren Kingsmill asks, "Hi Sam, can you know your thoughts on the Gammo range of air rifles, and in particular the Gammo Maxim Elite Multi-Shot 10 rifle, or if this is a game changer for break barrel rifles?" I think you're referring to those break barrels that have like a magazine system built into them and so on. I think it's a great idea. I remember as a kid thinking, why hasn't anyone done that? Actually in my mind thinking, why wouldn't somebody do that? Like, you know, I would have my own underlever BSA air sporter. I'm like, well, why hasn't this got just a little round thing that you can put pellets in that you just stick in, and then every time you cock it, the lever, you don't have to put a pellet in, it just actuates it and then loads another round. It's not very hard, and I think historically there have been one or two examples, but yeah, you're right, this Gammo thing is seemingly the first to do it properly. Unfortunately, from what I've seen, it looks quite cheap and nasty. It really needs somebody like WireArc, I think, to do a similar example for it to really be a game changer. At the moment it's kind of just, yeah, they've done it, but you know, I don't think it's that great, if I'm honest. They need to refine it a bit. Rob Vivian asks, "Merry Christmas, hope you're well. Have you checked out Meat Eater on Netflix? What are your thoughts on this show? It's brilliant in my opinion, even though it makes me quite envious of our American friends." No, I haven't. I keep meaning to check that out because Joe Rogan keeps going on about it, and because I listen to his podcasts a lot of the time when I'm in the gym and things. And yeah, I keep meaning to check that out, but I haven't yet. I do have Netflix, so I will look. Stephen Wolf asks, "Do you plan to purchase any more guns in the new year?" Not particularly. If I'm brutally honest, I mean, I'll be renewing my license next year, and really, I've got everything I need now. To be honest, the only thing I would say is I could do with some sort of humane dispatch tool. So when I put in for my renewal, I may do that. Whether I'm brave enough to ask them for a 38 Special stroke 357 Magnum revolver or not is another question. But if I find something suitable, as I said before, a little short barrel 410 shotgun, smooth bore, would suit me down to the ground, especially if they let me have slugs, because that would do me a treat for dispatching deer and things. Because, you know, yeah, 38 Special, that's, yeah, it's a bit more powerful, but frankly, a 410 is basically a 45. You know, with a slug, that should be adequate, I think, for putting down deer. And obviously it has the advantage of then using normal 410 cartridges that you can use for other things. And also it has the advantage of, because it's a 410, it isn't actually section 5. I believe, anyway, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can get humane dispatch 410s with a short barrel under section 1. So yeah, it's probably a better bet, really, because if I get a section 5, from what I've read, you can only use them to humanely dispatch. You can't use them for anything else. You can't even practice with them, which is ridiculous, but it's the way the law's written. But if you use a 410 because it's section 1, then yeah, there's more variability there in theory. You could just put in some birdshot and shoot a rabbit with them, in principle, or shoot rats or whatever. And that would be useful around hay bales and stuff for rats. So, that, if anything, that's probably what I'm going to be going for. Reese Wilkinson asks, "What do you recommend as a first over and under 12 gauge shotgun?" I would recommend you buy one that fits you. That's it. It's what I keep saying to people. It's a bit of an obsession people have, because you don't need a nice gun. You just want a nice gun. It's nice to have a nice gun. You don't need one. You need a gun that fits you. So make sure that does fit you. Black Guinea Pig asks, "Merry Christmas, have you had any experience with Srspower shotguns? If so, what are your thoughts and opinions? If not, would there be something you would see yourself using if you had the chance?" Yeah, although I probably wouldn't go for a hush power actually, but I was talking to Tom about this. My ultimate pigeon gun, if I got rid of my Winchester SXP, because even though I do love it, it's a bit crap really. I would buy a Benelli Supernova, and I would buy one with a 24-inch barrel, which is too short. But then I would buy one of these. You can get these silencers that are about this long that actually screw on, and it has a choke adapter, and you can screw them on. And that would be like having a hush power, wouldn't it? I'd have that section 1, so it'd be like, I'd probably have it at like 5+1 capacity. And I really think that would be the ultimate pigeon gun. Because you've got 5+1, you can just keep feeding it, you've got loads of capacity. It's a Benelli Supernova, so it's super refined. They are like, I don't know, if you've handled one, but they are pretty much the most solidly built pump actions money can buy. But you've also then got a silencer, which means that it's quiet, you don't have to wear hearing protection, really. It means that it'll throw really nice and tight patterns. And yeah, as I said, it's got loads of capacity. So that would be my ultimate gun. I would buy that over a Mossberg Hush Power because they're just better guns, frankly. And it would be a nice short package as well. So that's what I would go for. Joshua Rumble asks, Merry Christmas to you. Hope you have an even better 2019. What was the best way for a young man of a poor background to get connections to get into hunting in the UK? I would say, as I've said before, to network. A good way that you could network is to volunteer to become a beater. And I should have said that before. If you're someone who has no connections at all to the countryside, you don't drink in some local pub where there's people around who do that sort of thing. What you need to do is find a local shoot and volunteer to go and beat. Now, that way you'll get to know people as you're chatting to them, during the day, and you might mention to them, I've got an air rifle. Especially at this point, you might say, I've got an air rifle, I'm doing a bit of pest control. And they might say, oh, actually, yeah, I've got, if he's a farmer, he'd be like, oh yeah, I could do with somebody shooting a few pigeons in my bar. Or, I'll ask old Bill over there, he needs some pigeon shot or whatever. That's really the best way to do it. No connections at all, no way of getting into the community, become a beater. That's the way to do it. Even if it takes you a long time, but throughout a season, at the very least, they'll let you shoot on the last day, because they do, they have Beaters Day. But that would be a really good way to get into it. David Price asks, Merry Christmas, how do you actually make in the field review video? I want to start, but don't know how to. Not for YouTube, but for myself, equipment and editing software, for example. How could you do a how-to video? I can't find out how to on shooting anywhere. Yeah, I mean, you really, the best way to work out how to make videos is watch other people's videos and figure out how they did it. One of the things, for instance, my target cam on my camera, for instance, that's actually a clamp designed to go on the handlebars of a bicycle, so you can put a GoPro on it, and when you're riding along, and you just switch it around sideways. It goes on a scope, and you can put your camera on top of your scope. It looks over the scope. That has a few advantages, but the biggest one for me is that it means it doesn't affect how I shoot, because although it's a bit of a faff getting it lined up, once it is lined up, especially if you're on the bipod shooting rabbits or something, it's just shooting normally. In fact, with my T-bolt, it adds a bit of extra weight, which is really useful, because the gun's too light, really. In terms of editing software, I use Final Cut Pro 10. That's a good option. You can use Adobe Premiere, and I do use it for some stuff, but Adobe Premiere really doesn't hold your hand. It's like Photoshop, but even more difficult. And for instance, with Final Cut Pro is just like iMovie on steroids. So it's got everything there for you. It's got loads of examples of titles and transitions and all the stuff that you need. If you're doing it in Adobe Premiere, you say, oh, I want to put a title in here, and it'll go, all right, yeah, okay. Here's another massive piece of software where you can design a title. So you'll spend like an hour designing a title which should have just been a drag and drop. Once you get everything set up, it's alright, but it's a ball ache, to be honest. So I would definitely go for Final Cut Pro. The only problem with that is, of course, it's only on Mac, but that's what I use. Abe Beard asks, enjoy the variety from your channel, Sam. Do you think there'll be any more YouTube collaborations when the other British YouTube shooting channels, past or present? I don't know. Very possibly. As I said before, YouTube's been on the back burner a bit this last year because I've just been so busy. I've just had other things going around in my head. Part of the problem with that is that I'm kind of on call 24/7. I could get a phone call now and I'd have to go and do some work. You know, the advantage is sometimes I'll be working from home. So, you know, but I'm never really off work, if you see what I mean. So that's why it's not been in my head really. But I do plan to go and see Ash at Varmint Shooters UK soon. I will be at the British Shooting Show, so I'll be seeing everyone there. So yeah, just keep your eyes open really. Reese Swan asks, hope all is well, Sam. Have a Merry Christmas and all the best for you and your family in the new year. I'd like to ask what's your opinion on a side-by-side. I've always shot an over and under, but fancy getting myself a nice side-by-side. What do you think of them? I think they're really pretty, and as I said before, in terms of shooting, it doesn't really make any difference. It's about fit. The one thing that's always put me off side-by-sides is they tend to be a bit too light from what I'm used to. And also I find that your hands end up going all the way around them. And you literally, your fingers almost get in the way of your sight picture. And you can burn your hands on them as well. But I mean, that's just me, that's personal preference. But yeah, they're very pretty. You know, I would definitely, you know, wouldn't say no if you bought me one. Can if you want. Gen Z2A says, think you'll ever come to the States to visit or permanently? Yeah, well, I've actually been. I've been to the States. I've been to New York. I know that's not really America, but I have been to New York before, many, many years ago. God, I think how long ago now? 15 years ago, probably. And it was cool, but obviously I didn't do any shooting or anything like that. I would like to go back. I do plan to at some point. In fact, I maybe before too long, because there's a possibility my company may be getting a contract in the United States, in which case I will have to go. So I'll have no choice but to go and shoot some guns. So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see. John Wilkes asks, how about coming to France to hunt some wild boar? Yeah, I'm up for that. I'm actually in France quite regularly. My mum has property over there. So, if you're English speaking and you want to take me out shooting boar and you're somewhere in the Picardy area, or at least not too far away, then yeah, I'll be up for that, definitely. There was an opportunity for me to go and do some winged shooting when I was there, but the trouble is that none of them speak any English, which makes it really awkward. So yeah, and there's the thing about the French. It's funny really, because I've got colleagues now all over Europe, and they all speak English, pretty much all of them. But the French don't. So it can be a bit difficult, you know. But yeah, I'm up for that. I'm definitely up for that. Honky Tonk asks, Sam, how about a short course introducing people with no experience on how to shoot animals for food? After Brexit, we may have a need for this as supplies becoming restricted. I think you're being a bit paranoid there, and you've been listening to a lot of BBC type propaganda. There's going to be no issues with food restrictions after Brexit. That's ridiculous. But in terms of shooting for food, then I've already I've done loads of videos on that. Whether it's pigeon shooting explained, rabbit shooting explained, ferreting explained. So go look at my Explain series and you'll see lots of tips. Rob Dawson asks, are you still going to buy an ATN-X sight? I've been thinking about it, but seen a lot of mixed reviews. Yeah, I have as well, and one of the things that's really put me off is I'm not sure what the legality is, because it's illegal to shoot a deer with night vision equipment, as far as I'm aware. And I don't know if that, even though I wouldn't be shooting them at night, I'd shoot them in the day. Is that legal? I don't know. But also, if I was going to buy some glass, I want to buy something really nice. And frankly, the scope I've got already is probably going to be a lot higher quality than if I bought an ATN. So I'm probably more inclined to get something else now, to be honest. But they are cool. They are cool. trying to find something that's actually a question. Jack BMX asks, would you consider doing a mini-series on different professions within the shooting industry, for example, pest controllers, gun shops, playgrounds, gamekeepers, etc.? Yeah, I could do. I mean, I might not be the best person to ask because I don't work within the shooting industry. My friend Tom, however, does. So maybe that'd be a good idea for a kind of talking type video, and you know, like we've done before, where we sort of sat next to each other and we're chatting. Yeah, because you know how, like, yeah, you might say sort of do a top 5 guns video. We could do a top 5 shooting professionals video, I suppose. Yeah, that's actually something I'll think about. That's a good idea. David Cox asked, did you ever get to do any shooting in Poland? I've shot at a few ranges there, but not as cheap as you might have thought. I blame the stag do's. Pistols and centre-fire semi-autos are not restricted. I didn't get a chance. I went up there, as I said, it was literally my first day of my new job was in Poland. I had to meet at Luton Airport. And while I was there that time, I didn't get a chance. And I was supposed to be going back to Poland a lot. Unfortunately, my company got bought out by a Belgian company. And there's been a huge amount of transitional stuff to do with IT that we've been having to deal with. So we just haven't had the chance. But I should be, touch wood, going up to Poland a lot this year. In fact, my boss wants us to go up every month, but we'll from now on. But we shall see. If that's the case, then yeah, I may get an opportunity. Stephen Hothersall asks, I'd like to follow your channel since having my licence and getting into field sports. I've learned a lot from your channel. I would like to see, if possible, more of you out pigeon shooting and children-driven pheasant shoots. Merry Christmas and all the best for the new year. Yeah, pigeon shooting was a bit of a washout this year on the stubbles, unfortunately. This guy who I shoot for over there, he's planting some peas soon, so hopefully I'll get out onto that. Driven pheasant shooting, if I'm honest, driven pheasant shooting doesn't do it for me. You know, I've got nothing against it at all, but for me, I don't think it's proper hunting. You know, for me, that's glorified clay pigeon shooting, and I'm not into clay pigeon shooting. You know, I'm into hunting, so it's not really my thing. Tiger Woo says, what's your opinion on the cadet forces? Were you ever in them? No, I wasn't. My friend Tom, who you see around, he was in the CCF, which is kind of like the same sort of thing, but for kids who went to private school. I know he had a lot of fun. He got to shoot machine guns and all sorts. I never had that opportunity. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. I've nothing against that at all. I think more kids should do it. Yeah, it's good. It's good. In fact, if I had the time, I'd probably, yeah, would get into being a cadet instructor, because if you become a cadet instructor, even as a civilian, you can shoot semi-auto SA-80s, you can shoot Glocks, you can even shoot machine guns potentially. So that's good. You know, that could be a good opportunity for some people. You know, I was dating a girl for a while. She's actually a solicitor, but that's what she used to do at the weekends. So yeah, it's cool. It's all cool, definitely. Clarky asked, my question is, have you ever been picked on yet by the police for your politically based videos? As I was apparently followed by the anti-terror unit for sharing newspaper articles and opinions over social media. I haven't been, no, and as far as I'm aware, everything's fine. You know, you need to be careful about the way you express yourself and think about what you say. If you say something that's particularly disparaging publicly, wherever it is, things can be misconstrued. So I really don't think I've said anything publicly that I need to worry about. Not that I'm necessarily saying you have, but it can be the way that you say things can trigger certain things. But, you know, we shall see. Because I don't know about you, but I very value my ability to express myself. And I'm not willing to give that up. Sorry, just not. Ross Taylor asked, what time should you decoy prisons? Pigeons? Projecting? Pigeons. I've already gone through that. They have the same sort of meals that we do, so just do it at breakfast, lunch or dinner. Das Capri asks, have you read the Rod Liddell article in today's Sunday paper? No. So I'm just trying to find questions. It's tricky here because a lot of people are just saying Merry Christmas because it was like a Christmas message video as well. So I'm going through. Chris Winter asks, hi, what's the best silence tool for squirrel shooting in the woods? 410 or air rifle? Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Neither are silent, and I wouldn't use either way. In fact, I'm really against shooting squirrels with air rifles because, you know, you see people like on the shooting show shooting squirrels with air rifles, but what they don't show you is how many that they've injured and that they've had to dispatch manually. Because, you know, what you'll find is that unless you're very, very, very precise shooting squirrels with an air gun, they won't die, even if you shoot them in the head. You might think you shoot them in the head, they'll die. No, not necessarily. You have to shoot them exactly at the right point of the head. And if you make a tiniest mistake, then yeah, they're injured. And you can't put your hands down to a squirrel. Don't ever try that because they will tear you a new one. You know, they're serious. You know, you don't want to touch an injured squirrel. So I would recommend a 12 gauge shotgun for shooting squirrels, regardless of the situation. That's just me. More Embalming asks, what's your favourite bullpup rifle? I haven't got one because I've never shot one. I have picked up an SA-80 before and I thought it was rubbish. It was really heavy, really unergonomic with a terrible trigger. But yeah, I've no experience, so I can't give an answer to that. Chris Caruso asks, hi Sam, are you going to the shooting show Birmingham this February? If so, hopefully see you there. Yeah, I do plan to be there, the British Shooting Show, unless something comes up, because the thing is, it could come up, I could have to go away, because it depends. That's the thing with my work, I might have to go away for a weekend, so I don't necessarily have that choice, but my plan is to go. My plan is to get a free ticket as well, if possible. Well, a press pass, but we shall see, we shall see. Ben Hassel asks, Merry Christmas, pal. Foxing with a 223 sub 200 yards, thermal versus night vision. What's your thoughts, recommendations, best, cheapest, cheers? I don't know. I've only shot with a lamp so far, in terms of foxes. Sub 200 yards 223 is perfectly fine, perfectly doable. In fact, lamping, I would probably shoot them closer than that if possible. Thermal versus night vision, I will let you know, because Tom's just got hold of a thermal from his work. What I do know about thermal is it's really, really expensive, so bear that in mind. Jim Smith asks, do you think spending £200 to £300 on a knife is worth it? Yeah, I think it is. It's worth it in exactly the same way that you buy a BMW rather than a Ford car of some sort. It's worth it compared to buying, you know, if you're talking about me, you might have guessed, but going to somewhere like White Stuff and buying some nicely made clothes compared to going to, like, you know, somewhere crap. That's why it's worth it. You know, whether you want to do it, it's up to you. You know, it's like buying an over and under shotgun, wasn't I saying before? Why spend £1,200 on a Browning 525 when you could spend £300 on some natty old Bicol that's second-hand and works perfectly well and fits you? Well, there is no reason, other than it's nice to have something nice. So, for me, it's worth it. For you, it's up to you. Ethan Fowler asks, what's your opinion on AYA side-by-side shotguns? By the way, I met you at the Northern Shooting Show in May and I was truly honoured. Oh, thank you, Ethan. AYAs are alright, yeah, I think they're very nice. My dad's got a number 2, it's side lock, and it's modelled very much on the Holland action, and yeah, they're good guns, you know. As I said before, I'm not a fan, because you tend to burn your hands, and your hands just wrap around them a bit too much, but any side-by-side suffers from that, so yeah, they seem pretty good. Good value as well. William Norman asks, just like to wish yourself and Tom a Merry Christmas and to say I'm a huge fan of your channel. My question is, what plans do you have for your channel in 2019? And do you have your eyes on any new weaponry? Keep up the great work. I've kind of covered this. You know, if I am going to buy anything, it's going to be Humane Dispatch. But we will see. Plans for 2019. I definitely want to go out and shoot with Ash at Varmint Shooters UK again. Have another lesson. Maybe look for some deer. And if I'm honest, at some point I might just have to bite the bullet and go and pay to go and stalk somewhere, because, you know, I got that deer a few months ago. I'm seeing deer around, but it's such a ball ache. You know, the amount of time I'm having to put in trying to track these deer compared to actually shooting them is a pain. So I might go and pay to do some stalking, but we shall see. AKV asks, what do you think about the government here in the UK constantly being more intrusive? How do you think we can solve it? Hopefully through political means, that is. All the best, Merry Christmas. Yeah, there's only one way you can solve it. It's quite simple now, because they've burnt their bridges completely. There's only one way you can solve that, and that's to vote UKIP, because they're the only party who genuinely support freedom of speech. And this shouldn't matter now. This should be bipartisan. Even if you're left-wing, you should want to vote for UKIP, because if you can't express yourself, you don't live in a democracy. And if you don't live in a democracy, you're a slave, aren't you? You're not a free person. We can't live like that. We have to be free. We have to be able to express ourselves. We have to be free to be wrong and be corrected in the free marketplace of ideas without the risk of imprisonment by government agents. There's only one thing you can do now, and that's vote UKIP. That's it. Fly King 1911 asks, Merry Christmas. My question is, do you ever think we'll get handguns and semi-auto firearms legal again? No. Just no. It's not going to happen. Not in a million years. Stuart Knowledge asks, Merry Christmas, dude. I'm looking to starting reloading, 12 gauge, 410, 22 250 and 243. Is this something you've ever considered? It's something I've considered, but the thing is, the more and more you get into hunting rather than shooting, which is kind of something I've spoken about a fair bit, the cost isn't so much of an issue. I mean, how many rounds of 243 are you going to shoot at foxes and deer in a year? I mean, how many foxes and deer are you planning to shoot? If you shoot 100 combined, say 50 deer and 50 foxes, that's a hell of a lot of beasts. And that should be 100 rounds. 100 rounds isn't that expensive, really, in the grand scheme of things, even if you're buying premium ammo. So it hasn't been a thing for me. Shotgun cartridges, to be honest, even unless, well, 410's different, but 12 gauge, even if you're shooting loads, it's just not worth doing. It really isn't. The amount of money you're saving is like peanuts compared to the amount of time it takes you to do it. So I wouldn't bother, really. But T43, 22-250, if you're a target shooter, yeah, sure. But if you're just hunting, I really wouldn't bother, to be honest. And not unless you want to make nice home loads, that's your reason, that's different. If you just want to tune them and stuff, that's something else. But for saving money, no, I wouldn't bother. Deco737 asks, Merry Christmas from Ohio to you, your dad and all of your family, ferrets included. Best wishes, keep up the solid work. Okay, not a question, I'm trying to pick the questions out, but yeah, that was another one, thank you very much. David Cox asks, any plans for a new gun this year? Have you got all your bases covered? Yeah, I've kind of been through that one. Somebody else asking the same question, Dan5000, hi Sam, love your content. Have you considered hand loading for your 243? I have, but just haven't found it necessary, really. The only reason I would personally is if I wanted to tune some really, really nice, precise ammo. But frankly, when I can get it, 100 grain soft point Seiko ammo is amazing. And it is what my gun will have been zeroed with at the factory, and it's designed for, being a Tikka. So, yeah, it's plenty accurate for me. Mr. Mister asks, so do you think there will be any room in the future for people to campaign for improving firearms laws to be more free and accessible to citizens? Yeah, very possibly. As I said, if we get a UKIP government, things could change dramatically. But that's up to you guys, that's up to the public. You know, we shall see. Amor Barming asks, I think you've already had a question, haven't you? Do you remember your first game kill, and what was it and where? I don't. I was very young. I honestly don't remember. No, sorry. The only possible thing I might have killed when I was really young was I once accidentally killed a ferret. And it wasn't intentional. Apparently my dad said they were all sat around watching TV in the lounge. In the olden days, people used to do that as families. And it was in the morning. And I suddenly just came in and went really quiet and just sat in the corner. And a bit later on he went out to the garden and he saw a ferret just sort of hanging like this from the hutch. Because basically what happened was, I was probably about 3 or so, well, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, and I lifted the lid to the run, and the ferret came running up the bars, stuck its head over, and I sort of panicked and just slammed it on its head. So maybe it was that. I mean, it's not really game, but that might have been. But I don't know. I don't remember, to be honest. MLG Games asks, would you ever consider trying terrier work? Yeah, I'd consider it. Except I haven't got a terrier, but yeah, I've got nothing against that. Jenny Bryce asks, any plans for those revolver carbines? Enjoy your channel, mate. Oh, you mean the long-barreled revolvers? No, not really. Humane Dispatch, they wouldn't be practical. William Hudson asks, I've just had my interview with the firearms officer today, Christmas Eve. How long do you think it will be before my licence arrives? Also, what's a good way to get onto a pheasant shoot with the shooting crowd? Yeah, you could probably Google it, a local pheasant shoot. In terms of how long is a piece of string, it really depends on your firearms department. It can be as quickly as less than a couple of weeks. It just depends. If you've already had your visit, though, it won't be long. You know, it's not like you've already had your main weight, because your main weight is before you have the visit. Once you've had the visit, it's not normally that long, but depends. It really does depend. Ross Taylor asks, what's the best for first shotgun? What brand? And 12 versus 20. Brand is irrelevant. It's fit is what is relevant. 12 versus 20. I guess it doesn't matter, because as a grown man, you can shoot a 20 pretty well. But if you plan on moving up to a 12 eventually, just get a 12, to be honest, it's easier. BWL Boy asks, all the best but, not said meant bud, but unless it's just some sort of, it's probably an Australian thing. Welshman or Australia, that's why I say that. Multi-hot shooting compound bows with my boy this year, and we're going pig hunting for the first time. I'm running a 270 right now, but thinking of picking up a 223. Worthy addition. Yeah, nothing wrong with the 223. It depends what you want to shoot. A 270 is monstrously powerful, but you know, I know you've got some big pigs out there. If you think a 223 will do it, then yeah, get one. JWP Fishing asks, Merry Christmas, I love your channel. What's your views on Morrissey? Yeah, interesting one. Morrissey, let's be honest, he's a bit of a dick, isn't he? Generally. But I must admit, he's spoken out a lot about globalism, and against it, should I say, and the EU, and the sovereignty of the British people, and so on. And, yeah, it's some things I'll agree with him on, a lot of things I don't. But whatever his opinion, he's always a bit of a dick. That's what I would say. Chris Gaddafi Wilson Tristan Wood, that's a hell of a name, asks, do you think the Second Amendment... do you want a Second Amendment-like thing in the UK? I don't think it's worth even discussing, because it's just not going to happen. Some Coder asks, what are the best sources of info regarding gun ownership and maintenance for potential owner of firearms in the UK? Well, my channel. Obviously. Well, no, just type it in, search for it. There's millions of channels out there. Placeholder name is placeholder. That's what he asks. That's his name. He asks, I'm interested in shooting, but I feel I couldn't kill an animal just for my enjoyment. How can I put an animal to some good use? Well, you wouldn't be shooting it just for your enjoyment. You'd be shooting it for pest control or as game. If you're shooting it as game, you get to eat it. If you're shooting it as pest control, you're doing it to control pests. So it would never ever be just for your own enjoyment, because that would be illegal. You know, there is no animal that you can shoot just for the pleasure of it. That's not how it works. Royal Welsh Hunting asks, how many foxes do you shoot in a year? Okay, average. And are you going to get another rifle? Well, I've already answered the rifle question. How many foxes do I shoot in a year? It says it varies, I don't know. Maybe 10, I don't know. We shall see. Keep watching. Zach Bell asks, have you ever considered doing a paid day of driven shooting with Tom? Some places do it very informally without the tweed. I wouldn't mind the tweed, but as I said, it just doesn't do anything for me, to be honest, driven shooting, because it's just glorified clay shooting. It's not proper hunting. I would, however, pay to go stalking, which is something I may do. So watch this space. Dave Davies asks, all right, Dave, when are you going to stand as an MP? I don't know. I've probably got too many skeletons in my closet to be an MP. Do you know what I mean? Too many, too many ex-girlfriends and people I've annoyed. But well, I don't know. You never know. You never know what could happen. We shall see. UK shooter money. How much do you make? A gentleman never tells you how much money he makes. Liam asks, question for you, mate. What's your favourite drink? Merry Christmas to you too. Well, I mean, this is an alcoholic drink. I like beer. I'm a bit of a connoisseur, actually. I think that's the influence of my new boss, because he's a big connoisseur. He likes going to a lot of the beer areas in Birmingham. You know, I've actually got a bit of a taste lately for ice cream ale, which I know sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing. If you're in Birmingham and you get an opportunity to get a pint of ice cream ale, it is beautiful. But they also had, like, you know, we went to a place that was like caramel and fudge ale and all sorts of varieties. There are a lot of breweries, like mini breweries in Birmingham, where they basically brew for the local bars, but they experiment with new styles of beer, and then they have like a little bar at the front of the brewery where you can go and buy a beer and try it out. And if it's popular, then they'll start mass producing it. So yeah, I love beer. So yeah, there we are. Tom Slade asks, how do I persuade my family to let me go hunting? Well, just to explain using logic and reason. You know, I've gone through all of the benefits in my channel before. If you've not seen me speak about them, go through them and have a look, you know. The talk I gave at the Northern Shooting Show, for instance, I covered most aspects there. That may help convince them. I don't know. Logic tends to work. Backspin asks, oh, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you, Sam. Merry Christmas. Well, although it's now 4th, but yeah, cool. David, asks, Sam, how do you earn a living? I've already been through that. Michael Osmond asks, have you ever done any fishing? I used to fish a little bit as a kid. It's something I'd like to get back into. My dad's always telling me that a true gentleman, you know, catches salmon and trout with a fly. Convincing him to actually teach me, though, might be another question. But it's something I may get into, yes. And I do like fish. I've got really into fish lately. Very healthy for you as well. Pope Raymond asks, are you able to own a lever action in England, and if so, what licences do you need? The answer to that is yes, in pretty much any calibre. It's section 1. Typically a lever action would be a club only gun, although sometimes people do get them for foxing and stuff. I've got no particular desire to go through the hassle to get one, but I must admit a 357 Magnum lever action with a 12-inch barrel and some sort of silencer on it would be very cool for foxing. It would be very cool, but yeah, generally they're a club gun. Lower Works 31 asks, would you ever consider visiting the USA to do a helicopter hog hunting? If so, what music would you play whilst in a flight? Well, it would be rude not to play something by Ted Nugent, obviously, because he loves helicopter hunting with shooting hogs. If I had the opportunity to do that, I would hop on a plane immediately. That would be amazing. TG7 Desert Rat asks, would you ever consider eating a fox? No, I wouldn't. That's disgusting, frankly. They're gross. I've seen what they eat. But that said, I have a French cousin who has been known to do that. But no, I think that's rank. So no, I've not had a desire to do that. Ron Herbert asks, why don't you move to America? Well, because you need to have a job there to get a green card, and there's loads of hassle. But as I went through before, the company that owns my company now, well, I say that owns my company, I mean we are part of the same company now, they are hoping to get a contract in America. So you never know. You never know. Joshua Kavanagh asks, this is the last question, what's your favourite knife for skinning, and which gun shows will be going to next year? Have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. Well, for most people, I would say the Eka Swing Blade is second to none. It's amazing. My current favourite, I would say, is my new knife made for me by Peter at Staffordshire Custom Blades. But I haven't actually skinned with it yet, other than the rabbits the other day. And it did the job perfectly well, although it was a bit big, because it's really for deer. But he's actually making me a smaller version, which is going to be for the small game. So I love those. But yeah, if you just want a knife that is affordable, definitely get an Eka Swing Blade. So, that's it. I finally got through it. It's only about an hour or so, something like that. I'm feeling a bit knackered now. But I hope I've covered everything. And yeah, it's now the 4th of January. So yeah, New Year 2019. Keep watching.